Well, welcome everyone. This is another one of those open 5-minute viewpoints from myself. And this time it's about Net Promoter Score. And I'm going to say one thing. I think Net Promoter Score is really good. Why? For very different reasons than you'd expect. Net Promoter Score collapses an 11-point scale into 3 categories. And what that means is that you get inflation. Score inflation. Let's give you an example. I once measured Net Promoter Score and found a 7-point decline. That encouraged action. Oh my goodness, we're plus 10 and we've gone down 7 points. This is terrible. We must do something about it. Contrast that with what typically is the way with satisfaction. Top box satisfaction, we're plus 60, plus 61, plus 62, no action. So that variability, by collapsing the scale, develops a need to do something, and that's really good. But it's also a little bit dangerous, and you need to be aware of that if you're actioning a Net Promoter Score. First of all, what this does is it can make us aware of weak signals in the market, encourages action, but can also give us false positives. So in Entain, I saw a decline by 7 points. In actual fact, on average recommendation, it was within the normal statistical variance you'd expect, just about 0.1 decline. So always add average recommendation onto your scale if you're using Net Promoter Score. It's difficult sometimes also, if you don't do that, to define what is wrong. It took me ages to find out that it was about account closure in Greece that was the real issue with some of these areas of analysis, and it was a small inflated effect we couldn't really do anything about. So there's pluses and minuses. But what you're also getting a sense there is I'm talking about not a measure that is anything statistically better than others or better than satisfaction. It's using what some may call as a trick, some may call as something clever, whichever way you do it, to get people to pay attention to customer experience. Now, how do I feel about that? I think you have to be careful. I think that having those categories, as I say, causes statistical flux and variability as well as what I've said before. And also there is sometimes issues around modelling with it as well, regression modelling and so forth, where you need to use a whole scale. So that's what I think about Net Promoter Score. I think there's another interesting thing about it, and that is that Net Promoter Score is something that, when you think about it, if you do something like that and it encourages action, how do you know that that action, if it's positive, will not create value, not on the Net Promoter Score itself, but somewhere else? Say in satisfaction, or perhaps not satisfaction because it's very similar to Net Promoter Score, or another area entirely. So we have to, by nature of Net Promoter Score itself, look to create a bundle of metrics, and that's not realised by a lot of CX professionals. I don't really so much agree that Net Promoter has anything more about it than satisfaction in terms of advocacy, loyalty, or any of these things. I also think you have to be really careful about direction of causality. Does Net Promoter Score spend, or does spend cause Net Promoter? Okay, look at Tinkainium for any evidence of that. And critically, remember, like emotion, Net Promoter is an abstraction, likelihood to recommend, some detractor, passive promoter. Just because in your category, it doesn't cause you to go out and spend more. It is related to something. So always have that to something. Otherwise, we might as well say, give abstractions and say if we raise Net Promoter X we get Y. Well, we just give X amount of money to people and they'll raise it and away we go. It's a machine, isn't it? No, it's very mustn't think like that so much. Yeah, you always have to ground it in what it actually is that drives or impacts, perhaps is a better word, Net Promoter Score. I think Net Promoter is obviously to a certain extent gameable as well, and that's always going to be the case. You're never going to get around that. But I think overall, those are my views. There's sort of pros and cons of Net Promoter Score. What else can I say about Net Promoter? I wouldn't characterize it the same as emotion, not at all. So I think if you use it carefully and understanding how it works, understanding what you need to get out of it, then it can be of benefit. But I think I'd like to leave with one final thing, and this is important. Net Promoter Score assumes linearity, rising all the time, more and more value. This leads to another point. Customers are non-linear and don't work in more complex systems ways. The curve traditionally goes up like that, but that's just a model. Often it's warped, it flattens out, or, and this isn't often realised, frequently you can get more value off the same score. This is what I call the Aldi Waitrose effect, but within a firm, so to speak, by their actions. So get an 8 out of 10 score, Net Promoter Score, as much as satisfaction or customer effort score. You can get another 8 out of score the next year, but get more value because you've done something different, but it doesn't necessarily reflect on the same score. So you can move along a scale linearly, or this curve itself can move up and down. The Net Promoter relationship between a score and spend can move up and down. This is something that I put in my book CEM Rebooted, and I encourage you to look at that because it's often not realised. So those are my thoughts on Net Promoter Score. Use it, but be careful. Always have a bundle of metrics. I'm very keen on stories, which I mentioned before, but also consider what you're actually doing and what you need to do to make it effective. The irony of Net Promoter is this, in summary. Net Promoter assumes a bundle of metrics because it assumes action, and that often doesn't lie on a rise in Net Promoter itself. Thank you.